brain slews, slick with ectoplasmic juice.
Ecstatic energy, a fire that fuels our memory.
What genealogy with spiritual topography?
Questions for your answers, we are data necromancers.
I fucked. So there has been a problematic mic stand. As the editor of our pod, that was the problematic mic stand.
Okay.
Make sure your butt's facing you.
Oh, I identified the butt.
Identified the butt.
I go ass to mouth.
Yes, ass to mouth only on the MAWPOD.
Yes.
So I felt like I fucking figured out what was wrong with it. So here
Fingers
we are.
crossed.
Fingers crossed. We've got.
It looks stable as fuck.
Yeah, it does, because there was a really interesting loose aspect that you wouldn't notice if you were no longer in a hurry.
Wow. So you were attentive to all the parts of the mic stand?
I was attentive to all parts of the mic stand. I witnessed the mic stand. I saw the mic stand for who it really was and how problematic it had permeated every episode.
You gave it space to be its full self, and it suddenly revealed to you its truth?
Yes. And now from here on forward, the ripples have ceased.
What a fucking dream. It makes me want to give like identities to our mic stands.
They have personalities.
What are their names?
I don't know.
Jared.
Jerry. It's like you tune into it and it's just screaming in pain. Somebody's trapped in there. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you for carrying our voices into the electronic world.
It is different. Now, there was an ice storm, so the last episode was... I'm into that because you and I could talk our asses off.
That was really into that too, but it doesn't. It's not a fitting substitute for this.
I like trying to feel when your car pulls up to my house and my dogs start going nuts. There's a whole ceremony.
There's a
around
buzziness and it's very electric. Boogie woogie woogie.
Woogie woogie woogie. This just in, ladies and gentlemen, you may not know this, but long ago, the goddess and the reverence of women was desecrated, and here we are.
Hi. Somehow our ancestors managed to survive and thrive, even despite attempts to thwart our womanly power.
So many things, and so this Lucas brought up to me.
Before we begin, I just want to say...
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say this.
Do you want to tell the story of how that became in our possession?
Well, we had a beautiful pilgrimage to the mall. What is it? Barton Creek? Barton Creek.
Barton Hardcock Mall.
We went to the mall. It was exquisite. The food court was it was like a buzzing beehive.
It's so absurd there. You and I almost peed our pants in the pure absurdity that is the mall.
We considered getting Auntie Anne's like pretzel halo configuration tattooed on our necks. Just like a floating heavenly pretzel with a halo above it. Like, what better imagery could you even want?
I also said that you know how Austin is the right city for us because the fucking line at Auntie Anne's Pretzels in the mall is always 15 people long. I don't know how it's from sun up until sundown. You have to stand in a really long fucking line.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There were 6 people working there.
Yeah, it was a factory. It was a factory. And, we got the pepperoni pizza pretzel bites and a cup of cheese dip, and they were delicious.
I feel like I'm surrounded by my people.
Yeah, it was great. And we witnessed some of the how do you call, I don't know, mating rituals and aggressive displays of teenagers whose only recourse when they need to get out of the house is to go to the mall and just show up and walk around and look cute.
I kept playing your bit as we were walking by Lululemons. like, I kept replaying that over and over in my head all day. You're like, what's with all the legs? And I look over and like Lululemon's the new Old Navy. It's the new Old Navy. So it's the fucking length of a football field. And they had at least 150 leg mannequins.
They were just legs, disembodied legs and hips, I guess.
Yes.
So, waist down, that was the representation. So God forbid you don't have legs. You can't shop at Lululemon.
In the second that you said that, somebody was wheeling by
there was
guy
a man
who had no arms or legs. As she said that, it was like one of those
we were
moments.
remarking on the abundance of legs.
This guy had nothing.
So what is that? Is that a meaningful coincidence about? And then, we wondered whether they sold Lulu lemonade.
Yeah, it was.
But, there's still a mystery there. And then eventually we wound our way through the mall. We went to Build-A-Bear and built a rainbow teddy bear that says Ribbit. And then we made our way to Ragstock. And how did we get the placard?
Oh,
or
this like fake whatever placard was at the register, and you're like, I wish that was for sale. And then the guy picked it up and showed us the price tag.
He was like, actually, it's on clearance.
And then you turned around and looked at me and went, do you want an early birthday present? And I was like, MAWPOD table.
MAWPOD need. Because you don't need to know our names, okay? This is not our names, our status. This is not... It's whatever, man.
It's whatever.
It's igualmente.
It kind of sums up how I think you and I feel about everything.
Yeah,
it's like
it's succinct.
You'll tear it up and then you're like, whatever.
Whatever. Just whatever. So there you have it.
We
We've got that.
And
then I also wanted to give you this book back.
Ooh, the book. It's my turn. So this is the book on the taboo against knowing who you are from Alan Watts. It was in my nightstand and I looked at it and I said, Megan.
Yeah, that was incredibly expansive for my sense of reality experience. It allowed me to slow down and widen my scope and realize all the assumptions that I make all the time that are wrong. And I don't know, it's sort of like an antidote against small dickiness.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. I can't wait for you to read it so we can have a discussion.
We'll have a big episode on it. Speaking of assumptions being wrong all the time, so I see Melinda last night.
Oh, yeah.
And I go over to her house, and I can tell she's feeling some way about just throwing my texts off and not ever responding or whatever. And I don't care. I'm like, yeah, whatever. She's like, yeah, Lunier was super sick, and then my cousin got shot in the head, and I had to set up a funeral, and I was like, let's reverse. What happened? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Her cousin. So it's crazy. She's the same age as her aunt. So her and her aunt raised kids together.
Yes.
Because they're the same age. And her son was her son's best cousin, and he just died for no reason, argument with a roommate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's fucking horrendous. And I was like, man, this whole time I was like, man, she really doesn't want to hang out. That's fine. But I was like, but also deep down I was like, it's not like her to do that. We've known each other for a few years now. So I'm wondering if Murphy needs water, because
he's stealing all the water from my skin.
Yes.
He's stealing all the water from my skin, and you can have it. I'll give it to ya. He sees me drinking water, and he's like, oh, if only.
I always knew my dogs were thirsty because they wait for me outside the shower,
so they can lick your legs. Look at him go.
Being tuned in with your animals.
My mom calls it plesh.
Plesh? When you're
it's called plesh because she refreshes her cats and dogs water really often. She's like, everybody deserves plesh, fresh water. I don't know why she calls it fresh.
All I need is something to pour to go over there instead of the laborious picking up of the disgusting Dog bowl.
Water stand.
So this conversation originated because Lucas was like, did you know the origin of the word virgin comes from the word Parthenos, which essentially is like a woman who chooses her own man, like a woman who has dominion. And I was like, okay, what are you getting at? And he's like, okay, well, think about the Virgin Mary. How different would everything be if this was about a woman who chose, especially in a time where that wasn't a thing, chose her own man, gave birth to this, you know, embodiment of whatever.
There he is.
and then in the medieval times, virgin was suddenly about a woman's chastity and her hymen, and you're like, ew, something.
Get out of my pussy.
Get out of my pussy.
Ew.
Like, yuck. So
I mean, the aspect of control over your own body and your own abilities is huge, and it's been like our biggest
fight,
gender struggle.
And then I think about a couple episodes ago where you were talking about the Davis, I'm so glad you just barely missed that tripod, because that would be the end of you.
You would be on the ground.
Turn into a rug. All right, my butt.
Hey.
Miss you for.
They
They don't play all day, but I guess they feel the buzzing. They feel the buzzing.
I bring it, you know, and dogs love it, and
but you were talking
it's
about
disruptive.
The American Puritan. You do not say, you are submissive. So
Yes.
I'm like, wow, what another crazy vibrational ripple to just smack us all over and over and over again.
Well, I would like to talk about that concept of virginity and how it can be used. It can be used to
Squash Pamela Anderson's
dominate.
life. Yes.
And it can be used as a source of domination, like by a woman instead of by a man. So it depends on who is sort of making virginity good.
Who's controlling that?
Who's perceiving that and sort of collapsing that wave function one way or the other.
Don't you want to be the mother of God, Megan?
No, thank you.
Don't you want to be the mother of God?
No, thank you. But let's talk about that, because motherhood is a huge creative power. It's like the original labor force job, you know? And so owning the ability to create a person is powerful in itself, but it's also debilitating, because you pass on your power to this new being that you've created.
And they suck it from you.
They suck it from you. They suck your time and your actual food energy. And so they make you physically weaker and more dependent on someone else who can bring you food, who can provide shelter, who can just basically help you and the thing that you're helping through birth and labor and birth, sorry. So if you think about it, a woman would be more powerful as an individual if she was not, you know, physically limited by bearing children. So in essence, a virgin has that power because she doesn't have that secondary, that thing she's trying to keep alive, as opposed to just focusing on her own, you know, power and self and proliferation. So in that sense, if a man wanted to capture a woman for an indefinite period of time, he could just blow a load into her. And so it's like the power shifts, because it's like all of a sudden you don't own your body anymore. It's like shared. And the sharing of power is the dilution of power, or the transfer of power even. What do you think about that?
You know what keeps like popping into my mind is fucking Sigourney Weaver from Alien, because she was the captain but also navigating a mission to save a child, a daughter, and then she had like that meeting with the queen alien and she blew her up anyways, because it's like, it's possible to, and I don't, we're not scholars, but we play one on TV. Like, there had to have been, there's a Rick and Morty episode, an old one, of like a planet of women, and they shot off all the men and it was like a glorious, opulent planet full of peace.
But it didn't last, did it?
No, I think it did last.
Oh, good.
Because they slung shot everybody off of their planet or whatever. To think of how badass if you had a support team of women who were all bearing children at certain degrees, who would kill for you and understand and, you know, feed your child. And, you know, it's like, to me, when I hear that, I'm like, God damn it. But since we've been so squashed, we don't know.
And isolated.
And separated, we don't know that we can do both, you know, or labor alone in space as aliens attack.
I think the isolation is huge in sort of diminuification. I don't know if that's a word. Making our powers more diminutive, or like smaller, subordinate. Because if you think about it, in more egalitarian societies where we're hunting and foraging and gathering little bits of farming here and there so we can shore up our reserves, women were more equal. Like, there was shared responsibilities. I think in
Native American societies too, the women had more power.
Right. And so like those anthropological concepts, like a matrilineal society, like, how do you identify your family? It's through the mother's line.
Which makes the most fucking sense.
Exactly. Like, why would you take a man's name and not erase, but, you know, legally erase your identification with your maternal lineage? But there's also the concept of matrilocal societies where people live with their mother's family. Like, you come and live at your mother's house, and so the person who's more important to you in your rearing, in your education, in your socialization is your uncle, not your father, because your father is less attached. Like, in some societies, the father is the donor of the sperm, and then he goes back to his mother's family. And so your mother and her brother are more important in your sort of social formations of like what's important in your obligations.
Opposite in my life. I can't think of a more absolutely opposite,
because you're like cut off from your mother's lineage and her influence, which is better for your mental health.
Yeah, but it's so crazy. It's like, man, what would that be like, you know?
And why is it only common in societies that are less emphasized on agriculture?
Because I was thinking about this, right? The pendulum swinging, they're desecrating goddesses all over the Mediterranean. You don't worship this anymore, you worship this. And it's spreading and it's spreading and it's spreading because I need soldiers. And I can't conquer if they're not interested.
Right.
I need to control you in order to spread and spread and spread.
The need for control, the need for a standing military to protect the surplus that you've created through agriculture, and sort of the dominance over the land is also the dominance over the feminine, because the feminine is creative, it's expansive, it's nourishing. And so in that way, it's like sharing. The feminine sort of is like sharing, and then the masculine is more like hoarding, taking, controlling, or doling out when it's necessary to sort of curry favor with different groups. But so the emergence of like the big man in society was the person who had land and also had laborers on the land, women, and sort of owned them and owned their surplus and could use that surplus as sort of social capital to sort of dominate other people. And so eventually you get sort of this stratification of society that's based on men and what they can control, what they can protect. And we were also talking about Alexander the Great and the Roman Empire sort of spreading throughout the known occupied world as a means of spreading their patriarchal government and ideology as well. And that was through physical war campaigns that were successful because all the soldiers were men, and like physically, biologically, men have more upper body strength and they don't have a womb, so they never get pregnant and have to lay down or take it easy or, you know, focus their resources on creating a baby. So they had lightning fast military campaigns where they just gobbled up cities along port cities in the Mediterranean. And women couldn't have done that because there was no birth control.
And also they just maybe didn't want to.
Yeah, there wasn't this carnivorous need to sort of dominate the world.
Like this is opulent and there's abundance of everything. I'm chill.
I'm good.
Right,
I'm gonna hang out here and talk to my friends. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's such a big piece of the puzzle of how our society actually unfolded. Like the power dynamic or the power struggle between male and female.
Well, and how it's needed and how so it almost seems so naturally it goes overboard, right? It's like, oh no, this is important. Like you offer things physiologically that I do not have. We can have a partnership and I can really gain a lot from this partnership. And then it just like, okay, well, wait, no.
I didn't mean that.
Why are you putting newborn babies on stakes? That's not what I said. And it's, but I keep thinking it's led us to obviously hate ourselves. No, I'm just kidding. Everything's broken.
Everything is limping along in different states of like disrepair from inattention. Light a
cigar with a $1 bill and say, "What are you talking about?
Everything's fine.
We've got cameras
great.
and microphones." But we're fine.
But women,
we're fine.
We can wear pants, and we can have bank accounts.
And
we can ride horses with our legs open.
So many thoughts because like. Don't even get me started on how fucked up birthing in a hospital still is. It's just like silly. Other parts of the modern world have figured it out. Oh, you do whatever you want. We're here if you need us.
Yeah.
Like down to just birth control and fertility. You know nothing. Everybody knows nothing. Take a pill, take a pill, take a pill, take a pill. You know, or they're like cramming IUDs in everybody and everybody's getting pregnant because they don't work. And you know, it's just like, Jesus, there has been so much that is ripped away, but the flip side of that is we've got the cars and the cameras, and the flip side is like the technological growth of now we have plummeted past plateaus of struggle, and now poor people can go to Costco and they can buy whatever they need, and now everything's really available, and now you're starting to see the pendulum shift, and it's so funny because like the CEO of Home Depot I saw was like, nobody wants to work anymore, and he was screaming, and I'm like, bitch, we're done. Like, we've now gotten to a point where in my opinion, the tail end of the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly.
And people are going, I'm not happy you don't listen, and $12 an hour isn't enough, and you want everything to be teenager work, but there aren't enough teenagers, and what are we supposed to do when they're in school? And you know, it's just like you start popping all of their dumb shit that doesn't make any sense. And it's because now I feel like things are shifting back to dominion and respect, and teachers are quitting and they're going to go work at Costco because they're like, I get treated better here.
Yep.
I make more money here. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to email me morning, noon, and night. Mm-hmm. I am punched out. So now we've worked everybody to the bone. I also think so much about the removal of the father. My dad worked at a factory. He was never fucking home. And when he was sleeping. I never connected with him. Mm-mm. I knew him as a sleeping lump. Like, I never knew... that he just needs to be 30 pounds lighter.
I know.
Which is
I like to give him the cuddles.
Lucas grew up without a dad. His dad had to drive forever to go work at the hospital. You know, it's like everything's been so precariously balanced. You know, would you trade your childhood house for living in a car if your dad was emotionally available or just even there?
I think that the great wars that happened like post colonialization, the great wars just ripped out the emotional centers in all men. Like it destroyed them, but it also gave them this purpose that was outside of their home.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
It was like it supplanted the need for like a strong patriarchal figure in the home, because even in industrialization, like you go and work 16-hour shifts in the factory, like you're not home. And I guess when agriculture first took off, you were at home, even though you were treating your family like a group of laborers. You were still there. But I think men just get ripped further and further away from the center, like the hearth. And women were supposed to shoulder that entire burden by themselves. It's just like, because we want so much stuff, there has to be all of this time away from the thing that's the opposite of stuff, which
and
is
now
like,
we're surrounded by stuff and we're like,
I have to dust all this stuff.
Yeah, I have to clean all this stuff. This thing broke.
It's not fun to have stuff if I don't have you here to share it with me.
Things feel empty, you know, and just marveling at my neighbor, like, alone all the time, and there's like 6 kids that live in that house, and I'm like, you can't do this by yourself.
Right.
You're losing your mind.
But it's impossible to have enough money to feed everybody. It's scary to think that when you kick your kid out or they leave voluntarily, they're just like out in the open world where everything cruel and unusual transpires. And you can't really say, like, hey, don't do that, because they're not telling you everything they're doing. You just got to kind of hope that you told them right, and they'll remember what you said.
Well, maybe when the pendulum starts swinging back towards the divine feminine, but then other mothers will look out. You know, they'll be like, because we're kicking them out into a society that's sick and broken and violent. And maybe if things start shifting the other way, because we're tired of everybody dying from heroin and gunshot wounds and school shooting after school shooting after school shooting after school shooting, we start wondering like,
Yeah. Do you feel like the Karen archetype is sort of a misfire in like the ultimate mother, like watching out for kids?
You know what I secretly believe deeply?
What?
That they are demonic pustules that have popped into, because I've seen some videos where you're like, that's not a human.
Ew.
That seems like somebody, you know,
where they're like smacking
there.
Somebody from out of the country.
Yeah, there was one, I don't know. It's the ones that are super absurd, like the woman blocking a car and she won't let them pass, you know, and you're like, ew, there's not to not make them responsible for their behavior,
right.
But to say like, you guys, I think you need to call the Ghostbusters, because she's not acting human. There's something like ethereal about that anger.
Yes, it's like a completely wrong judgment of what's going on. Like,
it's like those ants that get taken over by the mold or something. Yeah, it's like, oh, there's a fungi in your brain.
Something else is in control.
I was trying to think of, you think about Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion kind of reclaiming dominion over, hey, I can rap about the pussy.
Yeah.
Which is somehow fucking revelatory, you know.
Lil' Kim was doing it too.
Lil' Kim was doing it. And you're like, okay, there's something here though. It's like, we see Pamela Anderson and she's beautiful, but she's been molested and emotionally abused, and then she gets in the spotlight and people just want to see that and grind it down, and you ask for it and you ask for it. If you like showing your titties, you're a fucking whore. And then there's like this, there's no reverie, or oh, that's great. There's this, like, there was a whole string of clips of late night TV hosts interviewing her, asking her, you wouldn't get away with this now. Thank God it's different than it was 20 years ago. Yeah. Like, and it's invasive and it's all judgmental. It's not like, oh man, you look so great. Or what was it like getting fake tits, or like, you know, spinning it in like maybe a more positive way. It's all just like, I can't believe you. Wow. What's that like being where you're at? Is it gross? And does it suck? And you didn't make any money from your sex tape? Like, it's just like,
it's disgusting. It's like, that's what they want, but they want it just so they can destroy it.
They want to burn something.
Yeah.
They want to crucify it, and they want to burn it. And that just, to me, always seems like leftover trimmings of evolution and like kind of, I don't know, evolving from something base, animalistic, primal. Yes, and base. And then you're like, ooh, this part is not the creative art form of communication and love. And
if I could, I would like to read a passage from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of the first, I don't know, epic poems ever written from like ancient Sumeria or something. I should have done closer research on the date of this, but I'll look it up.
20 years from now, we'll be scholars and people can come back to us for affirmed evidence.
So, let's see. This is a little sort of, not paraphrasing, but sort of emphasizing the meaning of the passage. Among the fascinating evidences is that in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the earliest known poetic myth, whose most complete surviving form dates from the beginning of the 2nd millennium BC. There you have it. A harlot plays a crucial role in the bringing of the wild man Enkidu into the city to befriend Gilgamesh. And he, Enkidu, possessed her ripeness. She was not bashful as he welcomed her ardor. She laid aside her cloth, and he rested upon her. She treated him, the savage, to a woman's tasks as his love was drawn unto her. End of passage. This alienates Enkidu from his forest life, and the wild beasts become afraid of him. He now had wisdom, broader understanding, and he agrees to go to Gilgamesh. The temple harlot is an accepted part of society. Her role is honorable. In fact, it is she who is chosen to civilize the wild man. The assumption here is that sexuality is civilizing, pleasing to the gods. The harlot does a woman's task. Thus, she is not set off from other women because of her occupation. She possesses a kind of wisdom which tames the wild man. He follows her lead into the city of civilization.
Whoa!
It's such a different reading of sex and women's power through sex, and what sex does to a wild man. In that way, it's like sex is what makes a man chill out.
This was something else I knew we were going to talk about today. How many wars and how much troubled waters would cease
if everybody was
fucking, and they were fucking the right person and the right connection. Imagine a massage every day or physical connection. Mm-hmm. In the modern world, we are all very isolated and we are all trapped in our fucking minds, and we're not in our bodies. And then we look down at our bodies and go, for some reason we're all like, well, I hate football, I'm not gonna go fucking play football. And you're like, no, it doesn't have to be that. It just has to be donging. I mean,
yeah. Right. There's power in it. There's so much power in it, but it's often like abused and stolen, or like sort of,
I want to smack you around. I want to choke you. And you're like, okay, hold on.
Okay, why?
Are you mad at the woman for being so powerful? Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. And like, of course, everybody has different kinks based on their life experiences or whatever, and no kink
or
shaming.
how I don't want to kink shame either,
Right.
but it does come from like
It
your
comes
parents
from accumulation.
Yeah, yes,
You
exactly.
accumulate these things. They don't just come out of nowhere, right?
Mhm.
But I thought that treatment of the harlot in Gilgamesh,
And where did she come from? You know,
she just
it's
lived
like,
in the city.
She wanted to go to find a beast, you know. It's like,
And
or
I don't remember the premise of the story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and what Enkidu coming into the city really means. But she identified that it was her job because she's the only one who had that power to civilize the wild man. And everybody was like, all right, go ahead, girl. You did it. You did it. Thank you.
praise be.
Praise be.
Be good. Like, or don't die, you know.
And she didn't become a social pariah or like a second-class citizen as a result of using her sex to do this thing that everybody wanted to happen. She was honored. She was revered.
Okay, back to the women like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, people who are bold enough to
display their sexuality.
It is one layer of many reveries that need to be revived. Suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, this word seems to be really important here because what does that look like in modern day society? How do we revere any women? Do we revere anybody? I don't know. I mean, now that I think about it,
I don't know. There's like this constant chatter where everybody offers their opinions and judgments on what everybody else is doing. And I think that in modern days, it would look like everybody protecting each other's choices. Like, oh, you want to show your midriff or you want to show your cleavage, then yeah, I'll fucking bust anybody's ass who's gonna give you shit for that.
Yeah, I wore my mesh shirt yesterday and so it's just a mesh shirt, so it shows your bra. And I immediately felt shame and I started laughing. I was like, Whitney, wear it.
Yes.
Just fucking wear it.
Yes.
And so I wore it. But it was such a funny exercise in shame.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there's something.
It feels good to like do what you fucking want to do for your own reasons.
I have always, this is something I've thought a lot about as a mom. The first flame that blows out is your sexuality. Because for some reason you have no energy. But then I'm like, this is so fucking funny that I'm gonna expose this inner thought. Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 posted on his Instagram a picture of his wife in like this, and she was turning around, so she wasn't facing him, and she was wearing like a see-through dress, and she was wearing like underwear underneath it, like a mesh dress. Mesh is big right now. Yeah. And the caption was, hangs out with the Kardashians once, because Travis Barker had just married a Kardashian, don't remember which one, and they went, you know, they're surrounded.
Chastity Kardashian.
The chaste one. And that is a whole gaggle of women who prioritize their sexuality but have tons of kids. And everybody loved the post, and they're all commenting, woo, go Sky Hoppus, fuck yeah. And I'm like, it doesn't, hold on a second, I don't think it's as hard as we think it is to put on a mesh shirt or to let your booty fucking hang out, even though your booty might be not what it was when you were 19. And hold on, this feels powerful.
Definitely.
And the Kardashians clearly have some sort of powerful hold on everything because they can do both, but people don't talk about that.
They're sort of shamed for the exposure that they sort of, I don't know, it's their own factory. It's their own product.
Yeah, that's true.
This is
their own castle and
our billion-dollar business. Like, this is our industry.
Don't touch us.
It's
Don't
based
look at
on our
us.
bodies and our appearances and what we show
that's
of that
so
stuff.
wild.
It's a different version of the harlot, I guess. It's just like,
I don't know who they're taming or what was, didn't you told me something about the video of somebody cutting a cucumber.
The poor woman, man. Kendall, she's a model, so her image is her job. Like, that's how she brings home the bacon. So yeah, she doesn't know how to slice a cucumber for a snack. And I don't know if I can like demonstrate. Like, if this is a cucumber, she's like over here with the knife, like trying to cut it, but also like hold. It was so. But and then her mom was there watching her, and she was like, "Chef, can you come cut this cucumber for Kendall, please?" And then Kendall's like, "No, Mom, it's okay. I can do it."
And then it's captured on camera and blasted into everybody's butt pocket.
But yeah, they're an interesting group. I've never seen their show, and I think I'd like to remain on the side of the wall.
I've never seen it either.
On this side of that wall.
I listen to Kardashian regurgitation radio via Erica because that's her. You know, Bob's Burgers is your thing.
Yeah.
The Kardashian. And I always feel so bad because she's got no family and she's alone. And I think if she could do anything, it would be to live. You know, what a cool thing to be tapped in and be connected with all these women.
Definitely.
And have all of your needs met.
Yeah,
what a strange place. So I always hear all of this stuff from her, and I'm like, wait, who's that one? I'm always trying to get caught up on whose identity, because they all form one big Optimus Kardashian prime in my brain, and I don't know who's who. I try to, cast no judgment and be like, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's entertaining, but it also it sort of perpetuates this like commercialization of your image and like the importance of always appearing desirable to the other sex.
Are we tired of that yet? Okay, so talking about reverie, like, how do we revere again? How do we get...
It's just accepting that some people want to look sexy and not shaming them for that, right? It's like giving them space to fucking work and show their ass if they want to.
Also, where's the wisdom? Where's the reverie for the wisdom?
I don't know. I feel like wisdom is the realization that everything is temporary anyway, and that if you waste your time trying to break somebody down for looking sexual, it's just such a big waste of time to waste your energy on that.
I have short films that I want to film, but I recently came up with one that I really want to do with you, and it's called Pro-Aging.
Let's go.
And it's like, are you tired of running away from the inevitable? Because there's all this anti-aging stuff, because they've marked my age as 33 being fucking elderly.
She's a Jesus.
I'm elderly. And I just always laugh because I'm like, I want something that makes me look older. I want something to put on my face that makes people quiver. And I'm just like, why do you want to be younger? Because you're afraid to die, I guess. It's like a simple... And
it puts you further away from your inevitable death.
Bitch, I cannot wait for my deathbed. It's like... and so the whole reel is... And then I like have the old person filter on you, and you're like... Suddenly I feel wiser, and I feel like I have all the answers, but I think my kids are just going to throw me in the fucking elderly home as quickly as they can. Will you wipe my ass? I just want to do social commentary.
That's a really good idea.
On anti-aging. Get your sick buttocks. It's like you're given that time. We're all 19 to 22 for the exact amount of years that you need to be.
Right. And then you get to experience all the other epochs of life where the emphasis is not on your appearance, but it's on your accumulated wisdom of experience.
I cannot wait to be 40 because I still feel like I'm tripping on my own shit all the time, and maybe that never goes away.
Yeah.
But I feel like in 10 more years, I'll trip less.
Yeah, I think that what is wisdom? Wisdom is being put into a situation, but having lived long enough to have been through enough situations to kind of know how to navigate it with more grace or with less turmoil, emotional turmoil. It's sort of like being the captain of your own ship and knowing a better path to take when you're presented with a fork in the road. I feel like that's what wisdom is. And wisdom is
dead.
Wisdom and wisdom isn't emphasized as like a desirable trait because it's not immediately apparent when you see someone. Like wisdom is demonstrated in like the,
and we're never
the
giving
success
anybody
of your
a
life.
chance, right?
And who are our idols? Who are our heroes? Who are the people that we watch in their wise ways and sort of emulate?
I feel like we don't have anybody right
Exactly.
now.
So I think that
You remember when it was Lady Gaga and like everybody's inner freak was coming out and we're all like,
hell yeah. I was fucking born this way, god damn it.
Yeah, like that was like but now I don't think there's much.
I feel like there's such an emphasis on money and getting money and showing how much money you have. It's like your substance is downplayed. Like, are you intelligent? Are you wise? Like, can you navigate different situations successfully? There's really nobody can like see that.
Maybe there's a revival of the beatniks coming, right? Because weren't they like the underground counterculture intellectual commentary on
like slam
everything? Poetry
and like modern art that sort of evoked an emotional response because it pissed you off, because it was like, what, this is art? And it's just like I forget the name of the artist who's famous for just like the very plain.
I saw those, like the colors.
Is it Rothko?
I don't remember, it was blue, yellow, red, and you're like,
how much does this cost?
But that was so fucking
revolutionary.
Yeah, because he said
it's art because an artist made it.
Yeah. And it also feels so gated sometimes.
Yeah, because it's like another sort of cliquish level of society where you have to know people. Because if you don't know people, then how will your art be disseminated?
Right.
But, I mean, in that way, our time is sort of governed more by the democratic social media effluences that just sort of proliferate on their own. But even that is governed by somebody with a bias. Like, who is it? Just AI who decides your algorithm, or like how your stuff gets shown and who sees it? Like, it's interesting to think about the dynamic, the shifts in power, like from humans who like choose what to publish and what people see, and now is it like AI who's choosing who gets a lot of attention? How does that work?
I almost feel sometimes, though, the algorithm is hooked up to our pulsating heartbeat of what we're clicking on. Like, it's almost so dialed in now. And I think of, I don't remember her name. She's on Instagram. And she's, like, fully who she is. I don't know if you've seen her. Elise? Yeah. And she's like fucking 3 million followers, and she's just always bedhead, accepting who you are. She's talks about anxieties a lot, and she's like blowing the fuck up because she's so relatable. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Now we're kind of churning towards looking to our phones not to escape, but somebody who is us and somebody who's exposing their vulnerability. And I do see that kind of populating more. Like, people are kind of, because I'm sitting here waiting for everybody else to be tired of it. It's like,
I think there's like a resurgence of and it's happening in like young communities. Like, there's this term called Luddite, which are people who shun technology. And there's like this whole resurgence of Luddite viewpoint, like in teenagers. So like they're getting rid of their smartphones because there's no reason to be constantly attached to that vomit spiral. And so they have flip phones where you can just make a call.
counter side to that, my boss went through this, or old boss went through the same thing and bought a new phone that only makes calls. And I was like, you do know you work at a YouTube channel that posts morning, noon, and night. Like, you can't get away with this.
Yeah.
I was like, what about practicing not opening the fucking app?
Yeah.
What if you can have it in front of you, but you don't open it? And he got offended and was like, well, it's designed to pull you in. And I'm like, I don't check it all. It's like, no, you're consciously making that. But teenagers, I totally understand giving it up because there's a lot less than what a 32-year-old is doing on their phone. But
yeah, I think, I don't know. It's like, what's wrong, buddy?
Just kick him off.
Are you okay? Go down. Go play. Lay down. It's okay.
Murphy.
It's interesting how our discussion of feminine power led us to social media. It's all connected.
Yeah. There's a lot of different routes and paths and neural pathways that it can go down and that get brought up, and it's always hard to...
Yeah.
There's so much.
Willpower, I think willpower is sort of a result of having the ability to focus and a strong ability to focus. And focus is something that is nourished by being attentive and meditating and sort of learning how to wrangle your screaming monkey of a brain. And the results of looking at social media and the way that it's fed diminishes your focus. It diminishes your willpower, and it sort of eats at your faculties of like your self power, you know? So I can see how some people have to quit cold turkey because they're so diminished in that way by consuming that stuff. And maybe after doing that cold turkey thing, they can sort of regain their sense of strength and discipline and focus and let it back in on different terms instead of just being sort of engulfed by it.
I was talking about this in therapy yesterday. It's so funny how that person was very resolute. This is it.
Yeah.
But where did this resolution-based timeline ever get packed into our brains? Because in our last podcast, I talked about struggling with, why am I doing this? Why am I posting on anything? Why? What? What's the point? I should, I talked about taking the podcast down off of YouTube and this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I need to do this I need to get over this in order to see that the point isn't what the point is. It's the point, it's expression. And I brought that up to Elizabeth. She's like, every artist, doesn't matter the medium, they all talk about showing up. Showing up. That's all you have to do. And whether you fart something out, don't fart it out, draw a line, doesn't matter. The practicing of showing up. And I was like, why do we think that there's resolution? Oh, if I'm expressing, if I come to my canvas every day, I'm painting every day, frolicking, and that's the end. There is no more, hurdles to jump after that. And she's like, I don't know where that came from. But she's like, it's a problem with everybody and everything and all the time, Yeah. Everything's a process.
Yeah, there's no end until you don't get to try anymore.
Yeah.
Like your physical body goes away. But maybe you get to try in a different way post-physical body. I don't know. But I know that sometimes I'll feel like after working a bunch of days in a row, I feel really exhausted. And I feel like I need something that'll jolt that other latent part of me that I haven't been exercising. Like since I have a Patreon, I feel obligated to those people to produce something unique so that there's a reason why they give that money every month. And that, I wrote about it this morning, how I've been really tired because I've been working a lot, but how that creative endeavor is sort of energizing, like knowing that I'm needed in that way, or like I need to show up basically in order to feel like I'm not taking advantage of people for no reason. And having that outlet to just write, because that's where I've just been writing, and like I'll pick a picture from my camera roll from the past few days, and that'll serve as kind of the prompt of my writing. And doing that, sort of showing up, allows me to discover things that have been swimming around in my brain that I haven't been paying attention to. So it's cool to have that exercise of, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Or like it leads me down a new pathway of like discovery and like learning. And I'm grateful to have that outlet. I really want to make more goofy videos. The thing I want to do the most is make goofy videos, but I don't want to feel guilty when I don't physically have the energy to think of an idea and then carry it through and then edit it.
Do you have a list
post
going
it.
At all? Because you and I are at the same place. It's like,
yeah,
I want to do this, and this feels like this is what I want to do, and I want to quit putting other people ahead of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's some way we can help each other, like, okay, Thursday morning, we're filming the thing.
No, I feel like we are figuring out what our schedule is going to be, and like our production schedule sort of will be. And I think doing this once a week is a dream.
Yes.
And then however I can support your video production once or twice a month would be a dream. And then Rubbish Cook filming once a month. I think that as we move forward in time, as we are forced to do, things will just fall in place, and we'll like find a new stride. And
well, I too feel like the calibration period is long as you and I keep editing and keep showing up and keep I was worried about the Patreon thing too, because it's like, man, I just don't even have time to write, which is such a bummer, but I have to honor what's happening right now and start nurturing it in its own way. But I thought about putting up a phone camera, vlogging, like writing, but out loud.
Yeah.
That way it's like effortless. You can still post it. There's still a record of it. Maybe like that might be an easier way.
yeah,
Or something, I don't know.
I love that. I think that being on camera sometimes, like as if I were Amish or a Luddite, or like thinking like, this is soul sucking. Like sometimes I don't even want to be seen. But there's like a safety and a comfort in being able to control the words that come out. Because when I'm speaking, yeah, sometimes it sounds pretty good. Sometimes I just trip and fall and like can't really elucidate what I want to convey.
Sometimes I have a hard time picking, or I can just tell when I edit our podcast, I'm like, God, I'm all over the place. I got to rein it in a little bit more. Yeah, maybe writing would help that.
Sometimes I want to scream into a camera or say some goofy bit, and sometimes I just want to like have a camera attached to my face so you can see what I'm doing with my hands, and I don't have to say anything. I still want to figure that out for you, and I know that it's possible. I know it's possible too. I think that it'll be a whole new era when I get like a GoPro and I can just like fuck around.
So they have 360 cameras, right, that film all around you. They make belts so that you can wear it, and it comes out with a stick. Like sometimes motorcycle riders wear one.
That's
so it
interesting.
Like shows the whole bike and the whole body. So if you had one sticking out in front of you or behind you, and your whole environment would be filmed too. Like it could be like this whole other
360 cam.
Yeah, it might be a fun thing to look into for you.
Hell yeah. But yeah, I think showing up and just
showing up.
writing MAWPOD 27. Is it 27?
Yes.
Writing MAWPOD 27 on my calendar. Like yesterday, I put all my dates on my calendar, and I was like, I'm fucking ready to go, babe. And today, I just need to like clean and reset and charge up, and then I'll just plunge into my scheduled bits, and I'll get to express myself in all the ways I want to express myself, and it'll feel amazing.
Yeah.
And whatever else comes up, I'll deal with it right then and there. Feels good, feels solid, like we're building something,
like we're reviving something. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think about reverie and reviving. Because it's a fucking trip.
It's all a fucking trip, babe. Yesterday, I broke the Bob's Burgers curse.
What'd you watch?
I downloaded the free PBS app for my TV.
Cool.
And I was just watching The Fabric of the Cosmos, which is a book I read by Brian Greene about like what the fuck is space, and sort of expanding on Einstein's work in relativity and talking about quantum mechanics. And I just had it on, and this was so like, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it was revolutionary for me to want to watch something other than
the thing that grounds you and the thing that you do. Like, it's the cheeseburger for your brain.
It's so important to me, but I can feel it sort of diminishing in importance, and I can like turn it off and write.
It's an attachment too.
Yeah, and I'm recognizing how strong it is and actively working to diminish its power.
That's over you.
Over me.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a small step, but I think it's important to acknowledge the small steps along the way.
Well, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And we have such a fucking delusional sense of work because we only think of the bigger things. And work is not the big things ever. It's always the little things. Mm-hmm. But nobody ever talks about the little things. And that's where all the power lies. So then people just sit on their phones all day.
As an escape.
Because they don't know that it's the little bits that lead to the big bit.
Yeah, what is the song? Taking care of business. You gotta take care of business, babe. And if you didn't have any strong taking care of business role models, it takes a while to discover what that looks like.
Oh, yeah. It's just like that was another part of parenthood, hiding all of what do you do?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
I think that's why to go back to Bob's Burgers, that's why I like their family dynamic so much, because the kids are like adults in kids' bodies.
Yeah.
So the parents don't hide anything from them. They're just like, this is what we're doing, and your mother is being like this. And then the kids offer their opinions, and they're supported by offering their opinions.
Dude, Ruby's talking to me about death already. She asked me yesterday, she's like, are you going to die? And I'm very pro, yes, I am going to die. And then my therapist was like, but you should say, but not for a long time.
Remind her that it is not imminent.
You can absolutely talk about the truth. And she walked in on me changing my fucking menstrual cup, right? Yeah. You cannot hide from a child.
No, she's got to see everything.
So it's like, she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, this is a long story.
It started with Adam and Eve.
Yeah. Well, I was like, babies come from your pooter. And she's like, is there blood? And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of blood. Why? Because we're full of blood. Why? It's just like started this whole, and we talked about it for like 30 minutes.
That's so
like
cool.
Just back and forth. And because it's like, man, if you're already asking about death and blood and birth and like,
those are the most basic concepts.
Why would I fucking lie to you? Mm-hmm. But I want to give it to you in ways that make sense, and I don't want to overwhelm you, and I don't want to give you more than what you need. So there's still like an awareness of balance with that too. It's not like...
Yeah, it's interesting to think like the size of her head is still so big compared to her body. And it's almost like an analogy for her conception of time.
Yeah.
It's like once her head and her body are more in proportion, she might understand the timeline on which we have the ability to be alive and learn and do things and have experiences. But as of right now, she's still like every day that's in the past is last week. And every day in the future is like right now.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, to tell her like, yeah, I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, Papa's gonna die, everybody's gonna die. She's probably just like, oh fuck.
I remember like one of the first nights she slept in her bed all night and I'm sobbing and I'm like, we all grow old and die and no one needs us anymore, and Lucas is rubbing my back and he goes, you know, not unless we get everybody together and do a murder suicide.
And that's how our cult started. That was the
like,
beginning of our cult.
Oh, that's always an option, isn't it? We could just end it when we want to.
The pain of losing your loved ones doesn't have to exist if you all decide to die at the same time. We're not planning on killing ourselves, by the way.
No,
we're vibing in the sensorial realm way too hard. At least I know that I am.
I don't know if you listen to the last Ram Dass, but he talks about
it's on my to-do list.
It's so fucking good. This one is all about holding people in your heart that hurt you and cultivating peace for them, and saying no to the actions but not saying no to the eternal them. And somebody brings up assisted suicide, and Ram Dass is like, everybody's in control of their own destiny, and if they think that they've learned all that they can learn, then they should be able to do that. But part of life and living are the lessons that are given to you. So is the lesson, hey, this is hard, and you keep going, you know, and it's kind of talking about that. And I was like, that's all that life is. Life is only speed bump after speed bump after speed bump after speed bump after speed bump. It's just eternal. And I really like getting in there, and I like getting fucking stuck. And I like looking at where I'm stuck all the time and being like, man, the energy's all fucking stagnant and cooped up around this thing, and I just gotta, whatever.
It's interesting to bring up assisted suicide, because in regards to like severe clinical depression, I saw like a little clip of Jim Carrey talking about what being depressed is. And it's sort of like your body rebelling against the ego that you've developed, like the character that you've chosen to play in this world. Your body just doesn't want any part of it, and there's like this constant sense of separateness and like loneliness and depression in essence. And I don't know, I've been with someone who was so depressed that they wanted to seek out assisted suicide for that, and I don't know how, because like my experience has been like, no matter what happens, the things that I know of on this side of life and death are like more important to me to preserve than whatever follows, which I don't know what that is. So I always think like, if I'm alive, I can figure it out. If I still have my abilities about me, things will always change. You can guarantee that it's always going to change. So I could never really understand how somebody would want to die when they could go on living, and maybe things will change. Maybe things will get better. Maybe things will get worse. But I don't know. I don't know what it feels like to be so depressed and to feel so foreign to yourself. Like you don't love yourself. There's nothing that you like about anything that you experience. It's like, end this tragedy that is my life.
How did they grow up?
Probably, no small amount of neglect and abuse. But I don't know, it's not black and white. Like, no. I feel like they had a lot of happy experiences, but their bad experiences were what was emphasized in their assimilation to becoming a human. Like that was what was most powerful in their subconscious. So like everything was just...
Do you think that the unresolved trauma-ness became magnetized and just kind of sucked everything in instead of integrating what had happened? It almost festers into just...
I think that makes a lot of sense, but I don't know if there was like also a physical or biological limitation as far as like the distribution of brain chemicals and the hormones that pretty much determine your mood and your outlook. It's above my pay grade. I don't know the intricacies of the brain in that way, and whether your sheer willpower can really do anything to save you when your brain tells you that you're a piece of shit.
But I always wonder, like, there's so many factors, right? It's like, how sensitive are they to TV or video games or those things? Because I always saw depression in my dad, and then he became addicted to video games, and then he got addicted to meth, and then, like, the addiction became the thing. Same with my mom. It's like the addiction became the thing that limits the brain and alters the physiological mechanisms that try to keep you happy, and distort them and destroy them, and they become permanent, lasting effects of absolute heaviness.
Yeah, I think addiction is a huge... It's like a person who has these limitations will develop an addiction to replace all the things that they lack.
Yeah, so it's like the first thing I would want to try. Because I think about, like, what would you do in the middle of nowhere, Costa Rica, Central America, or Mexico? You'd go see the doctor, and the doctor give you a big fucking dose of ayahuasca, and you try to, like, peer into their brain a little bit to see where they're stuck or have their ancestors. I always think about, too, like, cut off from your ancestors on the other side, not being, no lineage, no draw to blood, no sense of purpose.
Try and defeat that sense of isolation.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's something that plagues a lot of fucking people.
Throughout time, you would expect.
Oh, yeah.
If we've always had the same brain chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
And I think nowadays there are just more ways to distract ourselves than ever before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The time we live in is the furthest in the future we've ever been.
And I want to keep going.
And I want to see what happens. Like, there's a lot of, the Turkey-Syria earthquake that has killed almost 4,000 people. That is, I can't even fathom, like, the war-torn and winter-torn country of Syria, and now there's a gigantic earthquake and like aftershock that they have to deal with, and all of these like people trapped in. So there's that. There's like Haiti. They have no government officials. Their entire country is run by gangs, and there's the war in Ukraine, and like
big upheaval right now.
Just like everything is in a constant state of turmoil, and it feels really important to like bolster our personal connections.
Yes.
And like go back to our safe places of intimacy where we can be grateful for not having those struggles.
Find somebody you love and dig in and dive in and make sure that you're being just the chemicals that are released from somebody hugging you or touching you or
because I feel like that intimacy is the antidote to like not getting totally engulfed in the world.
You alter newborns. They match your heartbeat. They match your breath. Their temperature regulation, their brain chemistry. I mean, imagine putting that said depressed person naked, wrapped up, and then putting them on a big mama chest.
That's exactly what they need.
Just regulate your temp. The mom will take care of it. Just
breathe like me,
breathe.
babe.
Yeah.
And eat from my body and feel my warmth and let me sing to you.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you want to fund my mother AI womb.
Dude, that's our church.
That is our church.
The Church of the Mother.
Yes.
Like, hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello?
Like, here's a little bit of drugs in your AI. We'll download your mom in there, and here's a big, nice, warm bottle of milk.
And we'll have those fake, like strap-on titties where you can come and like lay your head on them. And
we
like
should have statues with
surrogate mothers,
breasts that you can drink from.
Oh shit! That reminds me of the Korova milk bar.
Yes, yeah.
In A Clockwork Orange, where it's just. So like the milk comes from the tits.
But what if you just needed a fucking free lap to climb up on and suckle from and just stay there? Of course, you'd probably find weirdos jacking off.
Yeah. There's definitely...
Uh-oh.
Did that just happen?
Let me make sure. What's recording?
Dookie poop. Dookie poop. Dookie 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 poop.